I'm very emotionally affected by sound. Sound for me is like a dress for you.
Country music might look all cowboy boots, heartbreak songs, and small-town stories, but behind the scenes, some of the biggest stars were hiding secrets the world never knew. Even legends like Leonard Bernstein and Lou Reed had parts of themselves they kept hidden. And in country, it was no different. From hidden crushes to private problems, these stories show that fame wasn't always fun. Let's dive into the top 10 gay closet cases of old country music that will shock you. Number 10, Leonard Bernstein, The Hidden Symphony of Secrets. Leonard Bernstein wasn't a country singer, but honestly, his story kind of feels like what a lot of artists went through back in the day. He's famous for West Side Story and being this genius conductor, but behind all that fame, he had a lot going on that most people never saw. In public, he was all class, the maestro, the teacher, the big name everyone respected. But in private, Bernstein was figuring out who he really was in a world that expected him to fit a certain mold. He married actress Felicia Montealegre, and from what people say, she knew the deal about his relationships with men and still stuck by him. Their relationship was complicated, real, but also kind of restricted by what society expected from them. Letters show he was always balancing love, duty, and the image everyone saw. And honestly, his music ended up being the thing where he could pour out all the feelings he couldn't really talk about. His symphonies were like his diary, just without words. Bernstein's life shows that even the smartest, most talented people sometimes had to hide a big part of themselves. Being brilliant didn't mean life was simple. Sometimes it just meant learning to be quiet about the things that really mattered. Number 9, Lou Reed, Walkin' the Fine Line of Rebellion.
I'm very emotionally affected by sound. Sound for me is like a dress for you.
Lou Reed, the man behind Walk on the Wild Side, was no stranger to controversy or to confusion about who he really was. He blurred the lines between rock, poetry, and identity at a time when society wasn't ready to face any of it. Before he became the voice of the Velvet Underground, Reed underwent electroshock therapy in his teens, a procedure meant to cure his attraction to men. His songs became coded confessions, raw and cryptic messages to those who felt unseen. Unlike Nashville's polished stars, Reed was chaotic, unapologetic, and darkly poetic. But even with his defiance, he played a game of concealment. He dated both men and women, spoke in riddles about his sexuality, and used his music as both armor and revelation. Lou's life was one of contradiction, the rebel who couldn't escape judgment, the artist who turned pain into poetry. Number 8, Tammy Wynette's career pressures. Tammy Wynette, known as the First Lady of country music, was admired by millions for her powerful voice and heartfelt songs.
Sometimes it's hard to be a woman.
But behind the spotlight, her life was far from easy. Every performance, interview, and even her outfits were watched closely. It felt like she was constantly being measured against an impossible standard. And any misstep could be scrutinized by both the public and the industry. She carried the weight of expectations on her shoulders while trying to navigate her own personal challenges. Relationships, heartbreak, and private struggles were things she could not share openly. Even moments that should have been joyful were tinged with the pressures to maintain a flawless public image. Fans only saw the confident, polished star, while the real Tammy often felt trapped between her desires and what Nashville demanded of her. Her story reminds us that being a star in country music wasn't just about singing well. It was about fitting a mold, hiding vulnerabilities, and constantly performing a version of yourself that the world could accept. In her songs, we hear hints of her true emotions, moments where her voice carried both strength and quiet pain. Tammy Wynette's life shows that even the most glamorous careers can come with hidden sacrifices that few ever see. Number 7, Loretta Lynn's Secret Struggles.
You thought that I'd be waiting up when you came home last night. You'd been out.
Loretta Lynn's music broke barriers and gave women a voice in country. Songs like You Ain't Woman Enough and The Pill changed norms and spoke truths that many were too afraid to express. But behind the bold lyrics and strong public persona, Loretta carried private struggles that the public never got to see. Growing up in a small, conservative town, she learned early on that survival often meant keeping parts of herself hidden. Family expectations, social judgment, and the rigid rules of Nashville created a constant pressure to conform. Certain relationships, personal dreams, and emotional struggles were kept carefully out of the public eye, even as she sang so openly about women's lives and hardships. Her personal letters and private writings show a woman who was deeply thoughtful, sometimes fearful, and always aware of the eyes watching her every move. These glimpses into her life reveal how secrecy was not just a strategy, but a necessity for her to maintain her career and protect those she cared about. It also shaped the raw honesty and courage that came through in her music, proving that even hidden pain could fuel incredible artistry. Number 6, Kristofferson's Hidden Layers.
But I lit my first and watched a small kid cussing at a can that he was kicking.
Kristofferson is celebrated for his songwriting genius, the man who gave the world songs like Sunday Mornin', Comin' Down, and Help Me Make It Through the Night. His words had depth, honesty, and a rare humility that connected deeply with listeners. But away from the spotlight, Chris was navigating a far more complex life than anyone could see. Relationships, fame, and inner conflicts often collided, forcing him to find a balance between truth and the image expected of him. His relationship with Rita Coolidge was one of the most talked about in country music. On stage, they looked perfect. The poet and the singer, two souls bound by music and emotion. But behind closed doors, their relationship carried tension, long silences, and the weight of fame pressing on both of them. Rita once said that their connection was a fire that burned too hot to last. They loved deeply but also struggled to understand each other in a world where privacy was nearly impossible. Chris wasn't the type to reveal everything. He used songwriting as his safe space, a place where he could process feelings that were too complicated to explain. Many believed that certain lines in his songs hinted at deeper parts of himself, emotions he couldn't share openly in an era that valued stoicism over sensitivity. The rebel image people saw on stage was only a fragment of the real man, a shield he wrote to survive the expectations of Nashville. Number 5, Dolly Parton's carefully curated image.
Lay me on the ground, fly me in the sky. Show me where to look and tell me what will I find.
Dolly Parton. Everyone knows her. The voice, the big hair, the glittering dresses, and that bright Tennessee smile that could light up an entire room. She became more than a musician. She was an icon, a walking symbol of joy and resilience. But what most people don't see is how carefully crafted that image really was. Her long marriage to Carl Dean is one of the most mysterious relationships in the entertainment world. They've been together for decades, yet Carl has stayed out of the spotlight almost entirely. Many fans have speculated endlessly about that choice, why he avoids cameras, why he never appears at events, why Dolly calls their relationship private, not secret. It's one of the rare cases in music where love existed peacefully, away from fame's glare. Over the years, Dolly has been open about her deep emotional connections with people around her, including her close friendship with her longtime creative partner Judy Ogle. For decades, tabloids tried to turn that friendship into a scandal, but Dolly handled it with grace. She often said that people will believe what they want, and she'd rather focus on kindness than explanation. Her attitude showed strength, the kind that comes from knowing who you are, even when the world tries to define it for you. Number 4, Shelley Wright, Breaking Barriers.
I guess we guess our way through life. How many times?
Shelley Wright is one of the first openly LGBTQ+ artists in country music, a title that carries both pride and pain. Before she came out publicly, she spent years living 2 lives. On stage, she was the confident performer behind hits like Single White Female and Shut Up and Drive. Off stage, she was quietly carrying the fear that her truth could destroy everything she'd built. For years, Shelley hid her identity not because she wanted to, but because the country world left her no choice. The industry that applauded her talent also demanded silence about who she loved. She entered relationships in secret, constantly worrying about being seen or outed. She has spoken about how that double life took a deep toll on her, mentally, emotionally, and even creatively. Every love had to be coded, every heartbreak had to stay invisible. In her memoir and interviews, Shelley described the deep pain of falling in love but never being able to share it.
I do dream of the day when, we don't even consider whom a person loves.
When she finally came out in 2010, she was terrified. She knew she might lose fans, record deals, and radio play, and she did lose some of those things. But what she gained was peace, authenticity, and the chance to live a love story openly.
Knows that I'm a gay woman, they're going to assume I'm singing about a woman, and I think that artistically doesn't make a lot of difference.
That love story became real when she met Lauren Blitzer, a music executive. The two married in 2011, and Shelley has said that marriage finally allowed her to feel free to write, to perform, and to exist without fear. Together they built a family, welcoming twin boys.
And the more we can put these stories of our families forward, my wife and I have identical twin boys who just turned 8.
So handsome.
God help us.
And Shelley often says that honesty gave her career a new kind of meaning. Her decision to come out changed everything. It wasn't just about her. It cracked open a door that other country artists could finally walk through. She became a symbol of courage in a genre that wasn't always ready for it. Her voice, once hidden behind the fear of rejection, became one of the loudest advocates for truth in Nashville. Number 3, Ty Herndon, Fighting Against the Industry.
It was never gonna win, 'cause I was always gonna rise up.
Ty Herndon's voice defined the late 1990s and early 2000s country scene. Songs like What Mattered Most and Living in a Moment made him a star. But behind that fame, Ty was living in quiet turmoil. The world saw the smiling performer, the charming Southern gentleman, but he was carrying a secret that he believed could end his career overnight. Nashville at that time wasn't kind to anyone who didn't fit its mold. Rumors about Ty's personal life circulated for years, but he never addressed them. He couldn't. To survive, he had to hide who he was, all while singing songs about love and heartbreak that mirrored the emotions he couldn't express openly. Imagine pouring your soul into lyrics that the world misunderstood. That was Ty's reality for most of his career. In interviews later, he opened up about how the weight of that secrecy affected everything: his relationships, his mental health, even his connection to music.
I lost my faith. Every relationship I touched crumbled. It was really difficult to even find a reason to get up in the morning.
He struggled through failed relationships and personal battles that stemmed from having to live a double life. He once said that every day felt like walking on glass, unsure who might find out, unsure if the truth would ruin him. When Ty came out as gay in 2014, it wasn't just an announcement, it was a release. He finally allowed himself to be seen as he truly was. That same year, he began living more authentically, speaking about his faith, recovery, and new love. In 2023, he married his longtime partner, Eric Heese, and described it as one of the happiest days of his life. Their relationship, open and full of mutual support, became a symbol of how far country music and Ty himself had come. His journey showed that authenticity has power. Ty's courage didn't just free him, it created space for other artists to live openly too. He proved that you could be honest, loved, and successful all at once, even in an industry that once told him he couldn't. Number 2, Billy Gilman, a young star under pressure. Gilman was only 11 when he became a country sensation with his hit One Voice. He was the golden boy of country music, young, talented, and full of promise. But growing up in the public eye came with a silent burden. Every move, every word, every friendship was scrutinized through the lens of an industry that valued image over truth. As he got older, the pressure to fit in only grew stronger. Nashville wasn't ready to accept someone who didn't fit its traditional mold. Billy knew from a young age that he was different, but he also knew that being honest about who he was could end everything he had worked for. He lived years balancing two versions of himself: the smiling performer everyone saw, and the young man quietly struggling with his identity behind closed doors. That silence took a toll. The confusion of wanting to be loved for who he was, while being told to hide it, created a loneliness that fame couldn't fill. He spoke later about how isolating it felt to have success but no space to be real. His relationships suffered too. He couldn't truly connect when so much of his life had to stay hidden. There were moments of affection, of love even, but always under the shadow of fear of headlines, of backlash, of losing his career. In 2014, Billy finally came out as gay through an emotional video message to his fans. His honesty wasn't about shock value, it was about finally breathing. He shared how he had been inspired by other artists who lived openly, and how he no longer wanted to hide who he loved or how he felt. Over time, he found peace, confidence, and a relationship built on genuine connection, not secrecy. Billy's story is a reminder that no matter how young or talented, no one should have to choose between love and acceptance. His courage helped reshape what authenticity could look like in country music, showing that even in an industry built on tradition, truth can still find its voice. But before we get to our number 1 spot, here's something to think about. How many artists might still be hiding parts of themselves today? The country music scene has evolved, but old habits die hard. Could there be another legend, another voice we love, still keeping their story untold? Stick around, because what comes next will make you see country music and its stars in a whole new light. Number 1, Brandi Carlile, Shattering the Nashville Mold. Brandi Carlile, a powerhouse voice, a raw songwriter, and one of the most fearless artists in modern country and Americana music.
I'm living in a war with time. I can still reach out and touch you and I.
When she came out publicly, it wasn't part of a carefully planned PR move. It was a deeply personal step toward living truthfully. She knew the risks, especially in an industry where silence often felt safer than honesty. But Brandi decided that her identity wasn't something to hide, it was something to celebrate. In her recent years, Brandi struggled with acceptance, not just from the industry, but from her own community. Some radio stations refused to play her songs. Some promoters quietly stepped back. But she never stopped creating, never stopped performing with the same fiery energy that made her impossible to ignore. Her music began to reflect not just her artistry, but her courage. She wrote about love, family, faith, and the quiet beauty of self-acceptance. And then there was Katherine Shepherd, the woman who changed her life. Their love story began through letters, exchanged before they ever met in person. What started as admiration turned into something profound. Brandi often talks about how Katherine grounded her, showing her what partnership really means beyond fame and stages. Together, they built a home, started a family, and created a space where love was free of conditions or expectations. Their relationship became the backbone of Brandi's confidence. You can feel it in her performances, in the way she smiles on stage, in the songs she writes about belonging and truth. She once said that her wife and children made her realize that visibility isn't just bravery, it's responsibility. By living openly, she gave countless fans permission to do the same. Brandi's story isn't just about music, it's about transformation. She turned vulnerability into strength, fear into art, and love into revolution. In a world that once told her to stay silent, she sang louder than ever, and the world finally listened. And that's a wrap. What a journey, right? From hidden struggles to groundbreaking authenticity, these country stars remind us that fame isn't always glitter and glory. Behind the chart toppers and flashing lights were real people battling fear, love, and the constant pressure to fit into Nashville's mold. Their stories prove that courage often comes quietly, in the moments when they choose truth over comfort. Which story surprised you the most? Was it the one you expected, or did it change how you see these artists? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to know. If you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives like this one. We've got more secrets, stories, and untold legends coming your way. Until then, remember, every song has a story, and every legend has a side the spotlight never shows.